It was the third year of the little victorious war. Kadyrov had gone through 4 kidney transplants. Part of the Kursk region had come under Ukrainian control. And in the towns and villages of Russia, there were no plumbers or mechanics left.
Yesterday I wrote, I really honestly want to poop, but I just can't do it. Not yet anyway.
So where have all the strong working men's hands in Russia gone? They were torn off in Ukraine and are now applauding the worms. It took a full 3 years for Russian society as a whole to finally snap out of its collective stupor, to look around and to truly notice that hundreds of thousands of their acquaintances, friends, and relatives were suddenly missing. They have been killed or maimed in the war.
So many people missing. So many dead, even among our own friends. The losses are enormous.
Russia's losses have reached such a critical level that even the Z propagandists can no longer stay silent about them. They've stopped celebrating the advance of their own military forces because behind every single meter captured and every flag planted, there is in fact a pile of the lifeless bodies of fallen soldiers.
You see how people are coming apart inside? Right. They start thinking the same way. Ah, damn, how many more guys are going to die? We don't need this anymore, especially since it's all such a mess.
The capture of Vuldar became a truly black day in the history of this failed country because the achievement is truly unbelievable. During the assault on the city, more soldiers died than the population of the city itself. In other words, instead of destroying and capturing Vuhledar, the Russians could have built a new city in Russia and populated it with living people. Now, the population of an entire Russian city is lying around and rotting in the fields and ditches.
Pavlivka is located just south of Vuhledar, and it was stormed in exactly the same way last year. That is, again, wave after wave. And every time they suffered defeat, every time their equipment was destroyed, and a large number of soldiers were killed. Even back then, many pro-Russian war correspondents said that in the battles for Pavlivka, a very small settlement, more than 1,000 Russian soldiers were killed. These are enormous losses.
And the capture of Vuhledar itself did not significantly change the situation at the front.
From the point of view of the necessity of advancing on Vuhledar, I honestly didn't understand anything at all. Because to assault the city head-on, a city that is heavily fortified, very conveniently located for defense, and practically turned into a fortress, well, that in itself was already foolish.
The stuffing is spilling out of the pot, and neither Solovyov, nor Skabieva, nor Kirkorov can keep the lid on, even though he's trying his hardest to distract Russians.
Who are you, Kitty?
Hi, Olam, not.
Kitty, please, would you kindly give it to me? Right here, yes. Right here in my mouth. Ha, ha, ha.
The orcs at the front are howling en masse in despair. They no longer want to fight and die. Everyone there already understands that coming home alive is not an option. Sooner or later, each one will be taken out in a meat assault, or the commanders will eliminate them for refusing to be taken out in a meat assault.
Romantic, but disobeying orders, Shave. You've seen that movie Tropath? It's a firing squad, and as for the firing squad, well, that's not the point. Not the point. It's everyone's own decision, to go or not to go. Each of you is a warrior.
The occupiers lose 90% of their personnel in these attacks. This tactic is called the chain of the dead. A platoon is sent into the assault, everyone dies along the way, and a single survivor makes it through and anchors the position like a stake.
Just a few days ago, he started what he himself described as zeroing out our soldiers. Literally, he proceeded to take justice into his own hands, killing our people together with his comrade, who belongs to Group V, and they killed the guys for refusing to move forward. The reason is that with every assault, they lose 90% of their personnel.
The Russians wanted so badly to repeat what their grandfathers did in the war that they actually did repeat it. In the Russian army, the losses are just as senseless and massive as they were in the Soviet army during World War II. Entire battalions are written off like old galoshes.
The serial killing of personnel under the guise of so-called meat assaults has now become widespread practice. Exactly 40 days ago, in an absolutely outrageous and utterly intolerable manner, several unique specialists were killed, members of a long-range UAV reconnaissance group murdered in a treacherous way.
he simply vanished.
The Kremlin is frantically scraping together meat from all over Russia, luring people to their deaths with huge sums of money and promises of a bright future.
For reinstallation of secret, 18 plus. Join your comrades, sign a contract, and receive 2 million rubles. Additional benefits and perks are provided for participants in the special military operation. You need to report to the selection point designated.
Now even the poor and the drunks aren't falling for the millions. Everyone in Russia knows perfectly well what the special military operation is death for nothing.
Don't say, we haven't even started yet. That's it. It's already time to stop. Otherwise, this definitely won't end well.
Even the most die-hard, brainwashed patriot, seeing coffins being delivered around his city in a garden trailer, can no longer lie to himself about greatness. The stench of death has sobered up this failed country and even brought the top propagandists to their senses.
I'm actually, personally speaking, against joining Russia, and I believe that any territories whose residents truly don't want to be part of Russia shouldn't be forced to join.
Now that's a twist! If even the nuclear Margarita doesn't want to seize new territories anymore, just imagine what ordinary Russians are really feeling. Let me give you a hint. Defeatist.
My mood is... I have no desire to talk to anyone. I'm just in a coma for the third day now. I don't believe it. It can't go on like this. How much longer can this last? I call whoever I talk to. I just grind him to dust. But what's the point? Will that really help?
Moscow is wasting human resources so wildly and senselessly that something impossible and unprecedented in history has happened. Russia now has a shortage of people. The shortage is so severe that the Kremlin had to borrow cannon fodder from North Korea. But even that is unlikely to help. According to Russian war correspondents themselves, even a division of Koreans won't change anything.
It's being reported according to all the major news agencies. Some woman even said that as many as 12 Koreans have arrived. 12,000, you get it, right? I mean, if you spread 12,000 people out along the front lines, no one would even notice that anyone new had shown up. So there's really no point at all.
12,000 here, 12,000 there, no big deal. Women will just give birth to more, although there's a problem with that too. Russians don't want to have children anymore. And what's the point? They'll just end up getting killed in the war anyway.
Just look, for example, at this dog. She has 6 puppies. And you. And you don't have even one? Well then, what kind of quadruped are you supposed to be?
In some Russian families, they're dying off in whole batches. Spielberg could sue a woman from the Rostov region because she stole the idea for his film Saving Private Ryan. In the Zenko family, all the men died in the war in Ukraine, the father and 2 sons. We're waiting for Mikhalkov to make a film called Saving Private Zenko from an FPV drone.
Rumors are spreading, nobody wants to fight. Even the volunteers are refusing. They say, why should we fight for a country like this?
Well, exactly.
Even the mustachioed ally, the last king of Europe, let slip about the terrible Russian losses. Lukashenko tried to cover for Putin, saying that Russia isn't bringing in any Korean soldiers. Moscow will only do that if it runs out of its own people.
Nonsense. Putin would never, absolutely never, knowing his character and his well-known personality traits, go so far as to try to persuade someone new to actually have the armed forces of some other country get directly involved in the special military operation and in the ongoing conflict.
So, the North Koreans aren't being sent, right?
I don't believe it. I'm speaking for Putin, knowing his character. Russia has enough population to conduct military operations.
But North Korean soldiers are already officially in Russia. They are being armed and dressed in Russian uniforms. And their officers in leather coats are strolling at a measured, unhurried pace around Red Square. According to Lukashenko, this means that Russia has run out of people. The special military operation is going according to plan. There are no losses, but that's not certain. Although, if you consider that the Kremlin doesn't regard its subjects as people, then there really are no human losses.
5,937 people died.
By the way, is it just us? Or do those North Korean officers in their coats look like SS officers? But it's not the first time Moscow has formed military alliances with SS officers. Even here, they managed to repeat history.
The Germans are present at the parade, and it seems that Marshal Timoshenko, Stalin's People's Commissar of Defense, greets them with great and unmistakable respect and ceremony.
Russians need to understand, they must come to terms with the fact that they will not return alive from this war. The commanders will keep sending them to slaughter as long as that cigarette butt sits in the Kremlin surrounded by his drinking buddies. Russians must save themselves from the looming threat of extinction. As banal or ordinary as it may sound, they quite simply need to stop shooting and return home, to shoot at home, if they must. After all, the real enemies are already truly waiting there right now.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.